But Johnson reportedly had extended affairs with at least 2 women back home in Texas.
As old as I am and as long as it's been, my toes still turn up when I think of him.
Madeline Brown was a 23-year-old radio advertising sales representative when she met Congressman Lyndon Johnson at a station party. A few weeks later, he invited her to another party at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin.
And while I was dancing with him there at the Driscoll, he put a key in my hand, and of course I was old enough to know what it was for.
Did you, Madeline, have any encounters with LBJ either immediately before or immediately following the assassination of
yes,
John Kennedy?
The morning of the assassination, he was angry, but he was always angry when Ralph Yarborough and John Connally, there was a political feud going on.
Senator Yarborough
Dallas.
of Texas,
Yes.
Governor John Connally of Texas at the time.
He, and I had planned a meeting that night in Austin. We were going to the big fundraiser. And he said, well, after today, the blank Kennedys would never embarrass him again. That was no threat. That was a promise. And I kind of laughed it off. I said, oh, after the rendezvous, everything's going to be great. Well, Jess Kellum had called me also, and he was telling me
Hatchet
that,
Man?
Yeah, the Hatchet Man. And I said, oh, Jess, he'll be okay. He's just mad. You know, everything's going to be all right.
Why was he so mad at JFK?
The Kennedys were always putting him down and calling him the country bumpkin, and he just didn't like it. They were a stumbling block in his way, politically.
When he said that to you, did you take it seriously?
Not at that second. I just thought he was mad.
Did you talk to him at all after the tragedy, after the
yes.
horrible
I
crime?
met him. I met him in Austin on New Year's Eve. And I was real concerned about it because everyone in Dallas was talking about he was responsible for the assassination. So I said to him, Lyndon, I said, you had already told me that after that day, you know, the Kennedys wouldn't embarrass you again. And then Jack Ruby had come out openly and said that Lyndon Johnson was the cause of it.
The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that had so much to gain and had such an ulterior motive for putting me in the position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now, these people are in very high positions, yeah?
Yes.
Jack, what do you think about the hearing? I want to correct what I stated before. He was vice president. Remember I said he was vice president? Yes, I did when I mentioned about Adlai Stevens. If he was vice president, there would never have been an assassination of our beloved President Kennedy. Would you explain it, Jack? Well, the answer is the man in office now. So
I said, I've got to be, in my mind, I've got to put things to rest. And he had a temper fit. He blew up and just screamed and hollered, and then he calmed down, and he turned around, and he said, at that time, it was the oil people I knew and the CIA.
Wait, are you saying that Lyndon Johnson, was he now President of the United States?
Yes.
Said to you personally?
Yes.
You swear this?
Swear.
That the oil people and the CIA were involved in the murder of John Kennedy?
Yes.
LBJ said that to you?
Yes.
Was it just the two of you alone?
Yes.
You sure it's not that the passage of years have made your memory foggy?
No.
You're not embellishing this tale, man?
No.
You sit here today and you claim that LBJ said the oil people and the CIA...
Scout's honor.
...killed the president.
Right.
Do you believe that your former paramour, Lyndon Johnson, had anything at all to do with the death of John Kennedy?
No, I did not have anything.
Do you believe that he had anything to do with it?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
As you sit there today, you do?
Yes.
Did you know what he was talking about?
I knew the people that he named, yes, I certainly did. H.L. Hunt was a very dear friend of mine, and 3 days prior to the assassination, H.L. Hunt gave me one of the wanted for treason pamphlets, and they just bombarded Dallas with it. And
Wanted for treason, JFK.
Uh-huh.
They thought that the liberal president was a treasonous man.
Right.
Selling the country down the river.
So I said, H.L., you cannot do the President of the United States that way. And he said, well, hell, I can. I'm the richest man in the world. I can do whatever I want to. But Dallas, Texas was bombarded, and he passed them out personally.
Did you meet Jack Ruby, Madeline?
Lyndon Johnson's attorney introduced me to him.
Go on.
I'm serious.
Where?
I was coming out of Neiman Marcus, and happened, of course, I knew the attorney, and he was standing talking to Jack Ruby, and he says, I want you to meet Jack Ruby. And I
Wait a second. When was this?
Oh, 1952, I think, way back.
10 years before the assassination?
Oh, yeah.
So Lyndon Johnson's attorney, which one?
Jerome Ragsdale.
The same guy who wrote you the letter
Yes.
after LBJ died
Yes.
and said that the financial arrangements would be continued. He was standing with Jack Ruby, you say?
Yes.
Did you ever tell any of the authorities this?
Yes.
Who'd you tell?
Well, not the Warren Commission. They didn't talk to me.
They didn't ask you
No.
to testify?
No, I was told.
Go on.
I was told if they contacted me in any way.
They should watch some talk shows, these guys.
President Kennedy, after the Bay of Pigs, fired Allen Dulles as director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Dulles hated Kennedy. His whole career was ruined by Kennedy, and he got to be named one of the 7 Warren Commission members. He certainly had an axe to grind.
On the eve of Kennedy's assassination, she attended a party at this house in North Dallas, the family home of oil billionaire Clint Murchison Sr. There was an extraordinary guest list that night.
We had H.L. Hunt, Murchison, Lyndon Johnson made an appearance. We had Hoover. We had Richard Nixon. They were the most influential people there. When Lyndon came in, no one was expecting him. So when Lyndon arrived at Clint Murchison's, they all went into a conference room, and you could just feel the atmosphere.
The next morning, only a few hours before the assassination, Madeline received a phone call from Johnson, who was back in Fort Worth with Kennedy.
Lyndon called me from the Texas hotel, and he was still irate. I said, Lyndon, about last night, and he went to cursing. He used foul language all the time, and he said, those Kennedys, he repeated, they will never embarrass me again. That's no threat, that's a promise. And I'd like the entire world to know how I personally feel is the fact Lyndon Johnson knew about the assassination and was a part of it.
Let's talk about the next day in Dallas. Where were you at the time
of the assassination? I was, I'd packed my car to go to Austin for the big fundraiser, and they were having a meeting of the Democrats down the old Red Courthouse, and they were fussing. Some of them were highly disenchanted about John Kennedy coming to Texas. And so here they were wrangling, which was very common. So I was lighthearted, and I said, hey guys, I'm going on to Austin. I'll see you guys in Austin tonight. And I blew him a kiss. I walked out of the Red Courthouse, and we didn't have all the parking problem. I get in my automobile. You could hear the parade, the noise from the parade. I drove across the Houston Street Viaduct in order to hit the highway to go to Austin. And impulsively, I said, I won't have time to have my hair fixed in Austin, so I'll go by, let's see, was it Fair Teich's, the beauty salon, and get my hair freshened so I could go on to Austin. And again, it's about maybe 10 minutes or less trip from the Red Courthouse. And as I walked in the door, they were already on the television that he had been shot. So I asked if I could use the phone. I knew if anyone knew anything, it would be just Kellum in Austin, because they carried all 3 networks. So I called Jess and I said, what is going on? First I called Lou Sterrett at downtown, and I said, my God, what has happened, Lou? And here are people that should have been out at the Trademark for the luncheon, but they were still downtown. And he said, well, they just shot that SOB. And maybe Lyndon. Well, when Lou told me it was Lyndon, of course it was very upsetting, and I didn't live all that far from where I had my hair fixed. Jess from my house. I said, Jess, what is going on? And he told me at that time. He even said that he was sure he had passed away. Or was.
You thought he was talking about Johnson?
Yeah, but but I had already verified that it was not Lyndon. Okay. It was John Connally.
And Kennedy. Let's go back to the night before. When Johnson came out of the meeting, what did he say to you?
He was so angry. He had a violent temper when he was upset.
Well, let's use the exact words that he said to you. What did he say to you?
He grabbed me by the arm, and he had this deep voice, and he said, after tomorrow, those SOBs will never embarrass me again. That's no threat. That's a promise. And it startled me, really, you know, because he was so ruddy-faced. I thought, oh, well, he really, something went on that shouldn't have gone on, you know. But he called me from the Texas hotel the next morning as I was going downtown.
Right.
And hear this screaming voice of his. He was so irate. And he didn't give me time to talk to him, you know. He just... he was still angry. And when I talked to Jess Kellum right after that, I said, wow, he's on a real violent binge, you know. And then I passed it off. I said, well, after tonight at the Driscoll, he'll be all right.
Yeah.
And, of course, I didn't see him again until...
What were the words he said to you over the phone?
That they would never embarrass him again. That SOB, the Irish Mafia, I think. He referred to him as the Irish Mafia very often.
But he said they would never embarrass him again?
I'd never embarrass him again. There was no threat. That was a promise. And there were violent feelings that have never been told that was between those two people.
There was a picture in the Associated Press that showed Ralph Yarbrough, John Connally, Lyndon Johnson standing behind Kennedy
at the Texas hotel.
Right. And
yeah.
If you look at the look on Johnson's face, what's your impression?
His face is snarling.
Yeah.
And John Connally is so worried or concerned. And after Air Force One got to Love Field, you see John Connally coming down. Everyone was full of glee, and John Connally has this faraway look.